Discover the amazing heartwarming moment when a housekeeper reveals what 20 doctors overlooked. Maria was running late, as usual. Snow flurries danced outside the window of the small shared apartment she and her daughter Sophia called home. As she tossed her last flannel shirt into the dryer, her heart raced. How would she manage to balance her 3 cleaning jobs and still make time to help Sophia with her homework? It was a daily struggle, but she wouldn't have it any other way. Sophia was her light, her heart. But tonight, her bright, spirited daughter was curled up in bed, feverish, her cheeks flushed a bright crimson. Maria's gut twisted with worry. As she gathered Sophia in her arms, she could practically hear her heart thudding against her chest, a familiar rhythm drowned out by loud city life. The world outside rushed on, indifferent, like a ghost who had seen too much. After a frantic drive, they reached the hospital, its fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, excitement quickly devolving into confusion and fear. 2 nurses and a doctor barely acknowledged her existence, eyes flitting over Maria's worn clothes and Sophia's restless figure. Their dismissive assessment stung her. It's probably just the flu. Another doctor shook his head, dismissing her concerns like a fly buzzing around his head. He looked through her instead of at her. It hurt, a dull ache that held her down like quicksand. She felt invisible. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the hours dragged, Maria's despair transformed into determination. She thought of the neighbors she had barely chatted with, a warm smile exchanged while waiting for the bus, an encouraging nod at the mailboxes. They didn't have much, but her community had strength. With her heart pounding, she reached out, sending a desperate message to them, sharing her daughter's plight. Almost immediately, her phone buzzed with supportive replies and offers of help. Within hours, a small crowd gathered outside her apartment, organizing fundraisers and heartfelt dinners, collecting every dollar for Sophia's care. Each contribution brought a flicker of hope. Each friend standing alongside her reminded Maria of her worth. No longer a mere housekeeper, she was a warrior, no longer invisible. But as the doctors continued to glance at their charts, Maria noted something in Sophia that shouldn't be there. It gnawed at her. The uncertainty bubbled up inside her. What if they were missing something important? Would they listen to a mother who cleaned their floors? Summoning weariness into strength, she prepared to confront the doctors, gathering her neighbors behind her. In that defining moment, everything hung in balance. Her daughter's life and the dreams of a future that once felt so out of reach. Would they hear her? Would they trust her instinct? The message rang loud. Maria was finally stepping into the light, a voice to be reckoned with. But lurking amid the shadows was a chilling thought. Could her quest for answers expose an even deeper, darker truth? A truth she couldn't have prepared for. Maria stood in the stark fluorescent light of the hospital corridor, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Each tick of the clock seemed to mock her resolve, as if the hours were counting down to an inevitable loss. She had laid bare her fears to her neighbors, who had rallied behind her, filling her with an unexpected strength. But now, the world felt cold and isolated, the bustling hospital seeming more like a prison than a place of healing. She could see Sophia through the glass of the room, small and fragile, swallowed by layers of blankets and machines. The icy grip of fear was creeping back into her chest. Had she made the right call? Was she just a worried mother overreacting to a common illness? The doctors believed so. Their hurried footsteps and dismissive gestures fueled her doubt. Maria? A gentle voice broke through her thoughts. It was Mrs. Garcia, the elderly woman from 2 floors down. I brought some soup, thought it might help you get through this. Surprised by the sudden warmth, Maria turned and felt a wave of gratitude. Thank you, Mrs. Garcia. I just don't know what to do anymore. I feel so powerless." "We all feel that way sometimes," the woman replied, her eyes reflecting years filled with their own battles. "But don't forget, you're not alone. Sophia needs you to fight." With that, a spark ignited inside Maria. The mothers she had cleaned for over the years, the kids who played soccer in the street with Sophia, they were all a part of this demanding fight now. She would not back down, not for her daughter, not for any dismissive doctor. Gathering her courage, Maria returned to the room, her supporters spilling in behind her. She approached the doctor, who seemed absorbed in the paperwork. "Excuse me, we need to talk. I believe something is wrong, something more than just flu symptoms. There's something about Sophia, I can feel it." The doctor looked up, irritation flickering across his features. "Maria, we've done the tests. Her vitals are stable, that's just it." "Stable doesn't mean healthy," she interrupted, feeling a surge of emotion. She took a deep breath, steadying herself, and continued. "You gave us your diagnosis, but you haven't listened to me. She needs a thorough examination, something more in-depth. If you can just take a moment." But the doctor began shuffling the charts again, ready to dismiss her yet again. Maria, however, felt the strength of everyone behind her. With Mrs. Garcia's soup still warm in her hands, she stepped closer. "Please, I'm begging you. If she were your child, wouldn't you do everything?" For a split second, she held his gaze, her fear turning into something fierce and resolute. Something inside him shifted. Maria could see the wheels turning in his head, a conflict brewing. She saw a flicker of something, understanding, perhaps? Maybe even compassion? "I'll see what I can do," he finally said, his voice softer, tinged with a hint of respect. As he left, hope blossomed in her chest. Could it be? Had she turned a corner? Maria shared glances with her community. Each nod and murmur of encouragement flooded her with renewed strength. They believed in her, and now, for the first time, she could believe in herself. But as the minutes passed, a nagging feeling began to settle in the back of her mind. What if the test revealed something far worse than the flu? What hidden truths lay beneath those innocent brown eyes? With each tick of the clock, the possibility loomed larger, threatening to shatter the fragile peace they had just forged. Would the truth bring them closer together, or tear their world apart? Maria paced the corridor, her mood swinging like a pendulum from hope to dread. The fluorescent lights above felt harsh against her skin, amplifying her anxiety. She glanced at the clock again. Minutes felt like hours. Each second stretched, pulling her deeper into uncertainty. What if time ran out before she could fight for Sophia's well-being? Mrs. Garcia stood nearby, her warm soup forgotten in her hands. As other neighbors trickled in, bringing blankets and soft whispers of encouragement, Maria felt their collective strength cocoon her in a protective blanket. It was as if they had woven a barrier against the cold, clinical reality that loomed inside Sophia's glass room. "Are you all right, Maria?" Mrs. Garcia asked, her voice filled with genuine concern. "I'm trying," Maria replied, her voice trailing off. She couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was looming, ready to crash down on them if she dared to relax her guard. The door to Sophia's room creaked open, and a nurse stepped out, her face calm but serious. "The doctor will be back soon with your daughter's results," she said gently, as if aware of the storm brewing inside Maria. "Results?" Maria's heart raced. Is there something wrong?" The nurse hesitated for just a moment, her features betraying the burden of her words. "She is stable for now, but the doctor will explain everything." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Maria with a set of restless thoughts. Returning to the waiting area, Maria buried her face in her hands. She felt the threads of panic weaving tighter. What if they don't know? What if they're too quick to dismiss her symptoms? What if? The questions spiraled out of control, twisting into a web of despair. At that moment, a young mother sitting nearby caught her eyes, gently cradling her own infant. Maria watched her, feeling a flicker of connection in her shared struggle. Life, she thought, is fragile. It's taken for granted until you have to fight for it. When the doctor finally returned, Maria's breath hitched. His expression held an air of gravitas, a weight that made her heart drop. Maria, he began, looking directly at her, we found something significant in Sophia's tests. Fear clutched at her throat. Could it be the flu, 10 times worse? Or something even darker? What are you saying? Maria whispered, the words catching like thorns. We detected an underlying condition that wasn't related to the flu. I think it's best if we move forward with more specific tests. More tests. The phrase echoed in her mind, a chilling refrain. As the doctor continued explaining the next steps, Maria's thoughts drifted. For all their strong resumes, for all their training, what if they had overlooked something essential? Something she had sensed but couldn't articulate? Is this something new? Maria cut in, her eyes casting a frantic search into his. No, it's just that the symptoms can often be misleading, he replied, his voice steady. But I assure you, we will take every measure to treat her. His words were meant to comfort, but they fell flat like paper over fire. Breath left her chest, replaced by the sharp bite of unresolved tension. Sophia was still vulnerable, still fighting. As the doctor turned to leave, a surge of defiance filled Maria. I won't let anyone else ignore what I saw. I won't let her go without a fight. With startling clarity, she realized this was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment that could change everything. The doctor paused, and perhaps for the first time, looked at her with renewed respect. Maybe now, he could see the determination burning in her heart, but just as they steeled themselves for the battle ahead, Maria couldn't shake the feeling that there were pieces to the puzzle she still hadn't uncovered. What had triggered Sophia's condition? And why had no one realized it sooner? As the nurse returned with more information, a deep sense of urgency filled the room. They were on the brink of discovery, but Maria wondered, could they handle what that discovery might mean? What if it led to answers that challenged everything they believed about medicine and motherhood? Questions hung thick in the air, ready to explode into revelations. Would Maria be ready for the truth, whatever it held? Maria felt the weight of every passing moment. The hum of fluorescent lights filled the silence as she sat, her hands trembling slightly in her lap. Mrs. Garcia, still nearby with her soup, had picked up on Maria's tension, her brow furrowed in concern. Maria, you need to breathe, she whispered gently. The warmth of her presence was a reminder that she was not alone in this fight. It'll be okay. Just focus on Sophia. But how could she focus on a little girl trapped in a room, monitored by strangers? With every tick of the clock, her mind bounced between desperation and hope. The doctor's face lingered in her mind, the solemnity, the urgency, as if he had cracked open a door to a truth she desperately needed to understand. Across the waiting area, a couple of mothers murmured quietly, their faces etched with their own worries. One of them was knitting. Every loop and twist of yarn seemed like a task only tangible in safer times. Maria envied them. They seemed to know how to calm their nerves, how to quiet the chaos swirling inside her. A sudden flurry of motion drew her attention. The door to Sophia's room opened again, and the doctor stepped out, looking even more serious than before. Next to him stood a young woman in scrubs, her face familiar from the previous shift. This time, however, she wasn't alone. An older woman with wise eyes followed closely behind, a medical jacket draping over her shoulders, the air around her brimming with authority and understanding. Mrs. Ramirez, the doctor said, his voice steady. This is Dr. Chen, our specialist. She'll be overseeing the next phase of tests for Sophia. The transition seemed to hang in the air like a promise unfulfilled. Why? Maria asked, the urgency in her voice ringing out like an alarm. What does she need that you can't provide? Because, Dr. Chen interjected with a calm smile, we suspect an autoimmune disorder, and we want to rule out anything more complex. Maria felt a jolt ripple through her. Autoimmune? The word swirled in her mind, bringing with it a mix of fear and a hint of understanding. It felt like an answer and yet another question at the same time. Could this explain the symptoms? The fatigue, the pain, the unnoticed decline? What do we need to do? Maria asked, a fierce determination igniting her voice. Dr. Chen stepped forward, her compassionate gaze penetrating through Maria's walls of anxiety. We will perform a series of blood tests and possibly a biopsy. We need to gather as much information as possible. A wave of vulnerability washed over Maria. She nodded slowly, the gravity of the situation pressing against her chest. Then let us do it, she replied, steeling herself. The doctors moved to return to the room, the urgency in their steps forcing Maria to process everything faster than she could handle. She felt like a leaf in a storm, tossed about by new information but resolute to hold on. Mrs. Garcia squeezed Maria's hand, a silent gesture of strength. In that moment, Maria realized she had allies. Here, in this sterile hallway, life and community intertwined in ways she had never fully understood until now. Just remember, Maria, Mrs. Garcia said softly, you're not fighting this battle alone. Lean on us when the weight feels too heavy. As the doctors entered the room, Maria leaned back against the wall, her heart racing. What if, through this new pathway of discovery, they found something crucial? Something that had been overlooked. All she knew was that a storm of fight was brewing within her. She wouldn't let Sophia's story end here. But as Dr. Chen's voice faded into the room, Maria couldn't shake the feeling that in uncovering the truth, they might unravel something deeper, not just about Sophia, but about herself and the world she thought she understood. Would the answers they sought bring healing or unravel them all? With a tentative breath, Maria dared to hope while bracing for whatever lay ahead. Maria paced the narrow hallway, her heart racing with uncertainty. Each second felt stretched, as if time itself were mocking her inability to act. She watched the door closely, waiting for it to open. The tension coiled around her like a tight knot that refused to loosen. Mrs. Garcia remained by her side, continuing to sip her soup, her eyes never leaving Maria's face. They shared a silent bond, a connection forged by fear and resolve. What do you think they're saying in there? Maria finally asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. They're working hard, Mrs. Garcia reassured her with a gentle squeeze of Maria's hand. Doctors have their own language. It'll feel overwhelming, but trust they are doing everything they can. Just then, the door creaked open. Sophia's small form emerged, still clad in her hospital gown. A nurse walked alongside her, adjusting the drip on the stand beside the bed. Maria's breath caught in her throat. The sight of her daughter pale and fragile brought tears to her eyes. Sophia looked around, her dark eyes searching. When they landed on Maria, a tentative smile broke through her lips. Mama, she said, the sound barely a whisper, but it was a beacon in Maria's stormy seas. Maria rushed forward, kneeling down to meet her daughter at eye level. I'm right here, sweetheart. How are you feeling? I'm okay, Sophia replied. But Maria noticed the slight tremor in her voice, the hint of fatigue lurking beneath her bravado. That's my brave girl, Maria said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. But inside, her heart clenched with worry. Could they trust the doctors? What would be revealed? These thoughts spiraled through her mind as she held Sophia close. Sophia looked at her mother with an innocence that tore at Maria's heart. Will we go home soon? We just need to make sure you're feeling better first. They're going to find out what's going on. Maria's words felt true, yet she couldn't quiet the growing dread within her. As the nurse prepared to take Sophia back for tests, Dr. Chen reappeared, flanked by the earlier doctor. Mrs. Ramirez, we have a plan in place. We will begin with the blood tests now. Can I be with her? Maria asked, her voice rising instinctively. The urge to protect her daughter burned fiercely. We'll do our best to keep you close, Dr. Chen assured. Okay, Maria breathed, her grip tightening on Sophia's small hand. As they wheeled Sophia away, Maria felt a fleeting sense of despair wash over her. But beneath that fear, a flicker of hope ignited. Her mind drifted back to Mrs. Garcia's words. It was more than just a fight for Sophia's health, it was a collective journey. While they waited, the other mothers around her glanced up, their eyes filled with sympathy and understanding. Maria felt their unspoken support, and she realized the power of community in moments like this. A few moments passed, and Mrs. Garcia turned, a spark of realization flashing in her eyes. Maria, did they talk to you about what they suspect? They've gotta share something. Yes, an autoimmune disorder, Maria explained. But I don't know what that truly means. Sometimes it's just about gathering pieces of a puzzle, Mrs. Garcia offered. Give it time. But remember, you might discover something important that they overlooked. Maria studied Mrs. Garcia, wondering what she meant. Could the answer to a complex medical condition lie in unexpected places? Her mind raced to thoughts of her routine at home with Sophia, the oddities that had come up before. Just then, a familiar face burst into the waiting area. Carlos, her husband. Relief flooded through her at the sight of him. He rushed toward her, concern plain on his face. What's happening? I just heard tests. They suspect an autoimmune disorder, Maria replied, her voice trembling slightly. Carlos placed his hand on Maria's shoulder. We'll face this together, okay? Fresh warmth enveloped her as their fingers intertwined. Maria felt a new strength rise within her. No matter what storm lay ahead, they were ready to battle together. With a shared glance of determination, they turned their focus back to the door. Would the answers bring more questions? Or uncover a path to healing they had yet to anticipate? As they awaited the news, Maria remembered Mrs. Garcia's words. There had to be another angle to this. One she hadn't yet considered. But what could it be? Maybe, just maybe, the key lay beyond the medical jargon and clinical tests. Maria's heart raced with unspoken questions. Would they unveil hidden truths about Sophia? Would she find the answers not just to heal her daughter but heal herself as well? The minutes stretched into hours, and Maria could feel the weight of anxiety pressing down on her. Her stomach twisted, gnawing at her with an urgency that mirrored her thoughts. Carlos paced nearby, his brows knitted together in worry as he stared at the door where the doctors had exited. Do you think we should ask someone for an update? He finally said, turning to Maria. I don't want to be a bother. Maybe they're just busy, Maria replied, but her voice trembled, betraying her uncertainty. I get that, but Carlos started, but was interrupted when the door opened, and Dr. Chen stepped out, his expression unreadable. The breath caught in Maria's throat again. Mrs. Ramirez, could you and your husband please come with me? Dr. Chen said, beckoning with a wave. Her heart raced even faster as they followed him down the corridor. The sterile scent of antiseptic filled her nostrils, blending with the faint echoes of footsteps in the hallway. Was this a good sign, or did this mean bad news? Dr. Chen, Maria burst out, is it serious? We found some signs in the tests, and I want to discuss them with you. His calm demeanor felt surreal amid the storm of dread inside her. They entered a small conference room furnished with a round table and a few chairs. Carlos sat beside Maria, their hands still intertwined, a silent promise of support tethering them together. First, let me say that we need to gather more information, Dr. Chen began. However, there are certain markers in Sophia's blood that suggest an atypical autoimmune response. Can't we treat it? Carlos asked, a slightly desperate edge to his voice. That's the challenge. We need to determine the exact condition before prescribing a treatment plan. There was a softness to Dr. Chen's voice, but Maria could sense the underlying gravity. Can we help? Maria asked. Is there anything we can do? Dr. Chen paused, considering her words. The best support you can provide is to keep a close eye on Sophia's symptoms and perhaps maintain a record of her day-to-day health. Little things might lead us to an answer. Maria nodded, determined to act. Sophia had been so tired lately, often experiencing joint pain that she brushed off as growing pains. Little things sprang to mind: the changes in her appetite, her sudden aversion to certain foods. Was it all connected? Are you saying there's something we might be overlooking? Maria pressed. That's entirely possible, Dr. Chen said, a flicker of acknowledgement in his eyes. Many families discover something crucial that we may miss. Keep a keen eye on her environment, her habits, anything that could potentially link symptoms. The warmth of hope flickered within Maria. She could do this. They could discover the truth together. As they finished discussing next steps, the three of them stood, ready to leave the room. Let us go find Sophia, Carlo said, squeezing Maria's hand. Right. We need her with us, Maria replied, a surge of determination fueling her. When they reached the waiting area, they found Sophia seated and drawing, the nurse nearby. The child's face lit up as she saw them, and Maria rushed forward to envelop her in embrace. Did they tell you anything? Sophia asked, her voice small. Yes, they did. We're going to keep a close watch on everything, precious, and you're not alone in this fight, Maria promised, wiping a tear from her cheek. Sophia's eyes sparkled with newly found strength. I won't give up, she declared, and in that moment, a fire ignited within all of them. Later, as Maria sat beside her daughter, she couldn't shake the lingering thought, what if the clue they needed lay not in the medical records, but in the everyday nuances she often overlooked? As the afternoon sun bathed them in a golden hue, Maria felt the pull of something greater, a discovery waiting just beyond her reach, hidden in the fabric of their daily lives. But what would it take to uncover that mystery? Would her search lead them to a breakthrough, or to more questions than answers? The clock ticked on, with the answers veiled just outside the door. That night, as the stars flickered above them like distant candles, Maria lay awake, her mind racing. The soft breaths of Sophia beside her offered a strange comfort, yet her thoughts were a whirlwind of possibilities. What was she missing? Something tiny and inconspicuous, yet monumental. The clock on the wall ticked gently, underscoring her lingering worry. She remembered the little moments from the past few months, the way Sophia had clutched her stomach in pain after meals, how she often chose to stay inside rather than play with her friends. Could these moments hold the secret they so urgently sought? Maria got out of bed, careful not to wake her daughter. As she poured herself a glass of water, she glanced at the family bulletin board that hung on the wall, a collage of drawings, certificates, and school schedules. There, hidden beneath a colorful drawing of a magical forest pitch, was a list of changes Maria had written down weeks ago: Sophia's fatigue, complaints of joint pain, and weird skin reactions to certain foods. She squinted at the notes, piecing them together in her mind. Had Sophia been trying to tell them something? Each item felt like a breadcrumb leading back to a larger story. The realization hit her like a wave: they had always been focused solely on the immediate medical concerns, blind to the nuances of her day-to-day experiences. Maria quickly grabbed a notepad. She jotted down everything Sophia had mentioned over recent weeks, the odd headaches, the foods that seemed to trigger her discomfort, even her sudden mood swings. It felt like they were entering a puzzle where they needed to connect the dots. As she returned to the table, she heard the gentle sound of movement. Carlos emerged from the dark hallway, rubbing his eyes. What is going on? He asked, sleep thick in his voice. I think I've found something, Maria said, her voice barely above a whisper. We need to keep a record of every little thing. It could lead us to answers. She shared her ideas, and Carlos sat up straighter, his eyes widening as he absorbed her words. It makes sense, he replied, the fatigue draining from his face. Every detail could matter. We have to get this right for Sophia. They pored over the notes together, the night growing deeper around them. Hours passed like minutes as they exchanged thoughts, drawing connections they had overlooked before. With each word, the weight of worry lightened slightly. They were no longer passive bystanders. They were active participants in finding a solution. Morning light streamed through the window, spilling warmth across the room. With each new day came renewed energy. They felt the urgency to reach out to the right contacts, to research potential conditions that aligned with Sophia's symptoms. As the sun rose higher, Maria's phone buzzed with a message. It was from a friend who worked at a clinic. Heard about your situation. I may have a recommendation for an exceptional pediatric specialist. Hope surged within Maria, mingled with excitement. Finally, they had a tangible lead. She glanced at Carlos, who smiled back, his eyes reflecting the same spark of determination. What if this is it? Maria wondered aloud, the thrill of possibility quickening her pulse. We won't know unless we try, Carlos replied, and together they thought about how an overlooked detail, perhaps just a tiny clue, might lead them to the breakthrough they needed. As they moved into action, with a sense of urgency pulsing through their veins, Maria wondered, were they finally on the cusp of discovering something remarkable? Would this new specialist illuminate the path to understand what had been haunting their family for so long? The day unfolded before them, filled with a mixture of hope and uncertainty, but one thing was clear: together, they were ready to fight for Sophia's health, whatever it took. The sun climbed higher, its golden rays spilling into the kitchen as Maria juggled two phone calls. The pediatric specialist's office was finally on the line. Yes, I understand. Can we schedule an appointment as soon as possible? She pressed, her heart racing with urgency. After what felt like a lifetime, she hung up, feeling a mix of relief and excitement. They had secured a consultation for the following week. But as she set the phone down, another wave of anxiety washed over her. What if they didn't get the answers they needed? Carlos entered the kitchen, still wiping the sleep from his eyes. Did you get through? He asked, hope lighting up his face. Yes. We have an appointment, but it feels almost too good to be true. Maria's voice trailed off. Carlos stepped closer, wrapping his arms around her. This is a step forward. We have to trust the process. His warmth calmed her racing thoughts. If only slightly. Later that day, they set out to gather as much information as possible. Maria suggested they compile all of Sophia's records, doctor visits, medications, and even the recent dietary changes. They spread papers out on the dining room table, creating what felt like a chaotic maze of Sophia's medical history. Look at this, Carlos pointed to a series of notes from one of the earlier pediatricians. It says here that she has a mild allergic reaction to nuts, but there's nothing about these other symptoms. Right. And remember when the doctor dismissed her joint pain as growing pains? Maria added, feeling frustration bubble up. How could they overlook them when it was all there? Determination filled the air like electric energy. They spoke in hushed tones, plotting their strategy like detectives on the trail of a crucial clue. Each paper moved and turned told a different piece of Sophia's story, one they were desperate to read in full. The day melded into night, and just as they tucked Sophia into bed, Maria noticed a tear streak drawing on the bedside table. It was of a princess in a meadow, both vibrant and eerie. She felt a lump in her throat. Within that innocent artwork was a glimmer of Sophia's world, one that appeared so wonderfully bright yet felt so painfully out of reach. Do you think she understands how worried we are? Maria asked Carlos softly. I think she knows more than we give her credit for, he replied. Kids have a way of sensing things. Maybe she can even read our worry in our eyes. After a moment, Maria added, what if we asked her about the drawing tomorrow? Maybe she can help us understand. That night, Maria lay awake once again, revisiting her daughter's art. How could something so simple carry so much meaning? She wished Sophia didn't have to bear any burden of worry, any confusion about her health. With a sigh of resignation, she reached for her phone and opened a health forum. Stories poured in from parents sharing similar struggles. Each story rekindled her hope, a reminder of resilience nestled among anguish. As the night deepened, Maria resolved to advocate not just for Sophia but for every child who felt unseen by the medical world. There was power in their voices, and she was ready to harness it. The following morning buzzed with potential, but as they prepared to meet with the new specialist, Maria couldn't shake a lingering question. Were they truly prepared for whatever revelations might follow? In the quiet of their home, they gathered their notes, ready to confront the uncertainties of the future. But as Maria locked eyes with Sophia, color and comfort danced in her daughter's gaze, a silent promise that they would not tackle this alone. What surprises would this new specialist unveil? And would they finally piece together Sophia's mysterious puzzle? The morning air was crisp as Maria and Carlos made their way to the pediatric specialist's office. Each step carried a mix of hope and nerves, their hearts pounding in tandem as they clutched Sophia's medical records between them. Maria felt the weight of the folders, as if the pages held the answers to questions they had been asking for years. "Do you think we should mention everything today?" Carlos asked, glancing at her nervously. "Absolutely," Maria said, her voice steady. "They're going to need the full picture. I want them to see both the big and the small." As they entered the waiting room, the low hum of conversations and the occasional laugh crinkled like paper in the air. Maria noticed other parents, some looking weary, their eyes heavy with concern. Others had glimmers of hope as they chatted about recent breakthroughs. It felt oddly comforting, knowing they weren't alone. "Sophia," Maria whispered, kneeling down beside her daughter, who was busy coloring a new drawing. "Remember, we're here for answers. Let us be brave together." Sophia looked up, her bright eyes sparkling with innocence. "Can I keep drawing?" she asked, her small fingers gripping a crayon. "Of course, sweetie," Carlos smiled. "But remember to show the doctor your princess." The minutes stretched, feeling like hours as they waited. Maria wrestled with her thoughts, each glance at Sophia sending another wave of fear crashing over her. What if they left that room without knowing anything more than before? Finally, a nurse called their names. Maria's heart raced as they followed her down a sterile hallway, the scent of antiseptic mixing with the fresh paint of the walls. Entering the examination room, she felt a prick of anxiety. The walls here were adorned with cheerful murals, as if they were trying to reassure her that everything would be fine. One wall had animals dancing under a rainbow, while another illustrated a family of cartoon clouds smiling down. A tall, friendly-looking doctor entered, introducing herself as Dr. Knight. Maria felt a spark of hope in her chest. There was something reassuring in the way Dr. Knight smiled and engaged with Sophia, asking her about her drawings and favorite games. "Now, I've read through your daughter's records, and I'd like to ask a few questions," Dr. Knight began, her voice calm yet rushed with purpose. As Maria shared Sophia's story, each struggle, each minor symptom, she felt the tension in her spine ease ever so slightly. Dr. Knight listened intently. Occasionally, she jotted notes in Sophia's file, her brow furrowing at some of the comments. "What's your biggest concern at the moment?" Dr. Knight finally asked. Maria hesitated, swallowing hard. "Her joint pain and the fatigue. It affects her mood and her ability to play like other kids." Dr. Knight nodded, processing the information. "Children often show us symptoms in ways we might miss, faint clues here and there that lead to bigger answers." Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The doctor leaned forward. "There are certain blood tests we can run. They might reveal something that has eluded others." A mix of excitement and anxiety rushed through Maria. "You think there could be something?" Dr. Knight tilted her head. "It's possible. What we often see is that there are patterns in these symptoms. Sometimes all it takes is a fresh set of eyes." Maria's breath caught in her throat. A glimmer of hope began to shine amidst the darkness of uncertainty they had navigated for so long. Sophia, with her innocent curiosity, glanced up. "Does that mean I can play outside more?" The doctor chuckled lightly, her warmth contagious. It might mean just that, little one. But first, we need to make sure we know what's going on. As they left the office, both Maria and Carlos held Sophia's hands tightly, feeling a lightness in their steps. It was as though the burden of the past was starting to lift. Still, in the back of her mind, Maria wondered what the test results would reveal. Would the answers bring them peace, or would it open a new set of questions they hadn't even thought of yet, as they drove home? The air was thick with anticipation. Whatever we find out, Maria murmured, we'll face it together. Carlos nodded, squeezing her hand. We've got this. But as they pulled into their driveway, Maria caught sight of that colorful drawing once more, and a chill ran down her spine. What if this was just the beginning of something they weren't prepared for? The question lingered in the air, just heavy enough that Maria couldn't shake it. What awaited them in the lab results, and how would it change everything? The sun spilled golden rays through the window as Maria sat on the edge of Sophia's hospital bed. The sterile scent of antiseptic hung in the air, but the warmth in the room overwhelmed it. Sophia was back, her eyes brighter, filled with hope. It was a stark contrast to just a few days ago, when she appeared so fragile. Good morning, Mama. Sophia's innocent voice danced through Maria's heart like a favorite song. Her daughter had unpacked her crayon box and was working on a colorful drawing of a magical world, a world where kids were colorful superheroes, and sickness was but a distant shadow. Maria smiled through tears. What are you drawing today? It's our adventure when we beat the bad guys. Sophia declared, her fingers moving swiftly over the paper. In that moment, Maria felt a spark of courage ignite within her. Her daughter's strength made the darkness of fear recede slightly. They had come a long way, but the journey was just beginning. Every piece of evidence they had collected, every small sigh from Sophia, mattered. They had learned to advocate for her together, no longer passive bystanders, but warriors fighting for their child's health. As she sat down in the chair beside Sophia, Carlos entered the room, holding fresh flowers, a token of love and support. Here they are, he exclaimed, setting them on the bedside table. They're for my two favorite girls. The flowers brought an immediate smile to her face, and Maria felt the atmosphere in the room shift to something more vibrant. Family. Love. Strength. The power to test the barriers of fear. The door opened with a creak, revealing Dr. Knight and a nurse carrying a clipboard. The anticipation was palpable. Maria gripped Carlos's hand as they waited for what felt like the most significant news of their lives. Good morning, everyone, Dr. Knight said, her smile reassuring. I have the results from Sophia's tests. Maria's heart raced. Good news or bad news? She asked softly. A bit of both, Dr. Knight replied, her voice steady. We've identified specific markers indicating an autoimmune disorder. But knowing this gives us a starting roadmap. Relief washed over Maria, mixing with fear. They weren't without answers, but the journey forward would be complicated and they were just beginning to grasp its implications. What does that mean? Carlos prodded, his brow furrowed. It means we can tailor our approach and monitor her condition very closely. She needs a specialized treatment plan, where we'll work to manage her symptoms, and Sophia will not go through this alone, Dr. Knight clarified. There are support groups, dietary changes, and therapies that can empower Sophia and help her feel more like herself. Maria felt her heart swell with hope. Can we involve everyone around us, the community that has supported us? Absolutely, Dr. Knight smiled warmly. That's vital. This journey requires a team. With each conversation, with every revelation, they felt dynamic strength rippling through their family. Hope didn't feel like an overwhelming burden anymore, it felt alive, electric. As they discussed details, Sophia rested her head against Maria's shoulder, clutching her drawing tightly. Maria couldn't help but marvel at the way everything was shifting. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, filled with twists and turns, but now it felt navigatable, Together, the visit concluded with Dr. Knight emphasizing the importance of being proactive. You're equipped with knowledge, and this will empower you moving forward. Once they were outside, Maria looked down at Sophia. What do you want to do first, little superhero? Play outside. I want to run. She exclaimed, energy reigniting in her voice. Then let us get out of this place. Carlos said, his laughter ringing out like a bell through the corridor. Later that day, as they walked through the park, Maria glanced around at the other families. Her neighbors had rallied together in ways she never expected, fundraisers, support groups, and downright love. Little miracles from common threads woven together made her heart swell. As they strolled along, Maria pulled Sophia close, whispering, "You, my brave girl, are going to conquer the world." And with that, an understanding washed over Maria. This battle was more than just about physical healing. It was a chance to transform, to connect deeply with family, friends, and community. They would face the challenges ahead, not in isolation, but surrounded by love. They approached a playground. Sophia ran ahead, her laughter bubbling into the air, her legs pumping like small engines filled with spirit. And as Maria watched her daughter swing higher, she knew in her heart that no matter what lay ahead, they would tackle it together. As one that she pulled out her phone, sending a quick message to her neighbors, "Our family is ready for this. Bring on the support. Thank you for giving me the power to believe again." With that, a wave of inspiration settled over her, echoing in the air as she felt the victory swelling deep inside. They had come so far. And together, they would continue the fight. Remember, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to stay updated on this journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep spreading hope. Comment your feelings about this conclusion and share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share.